Hello, me again. So, I got two related stories for you tonight. I don't think I can make them very long. So, but first, a little bit of background. Back when I was a kid, there were a lot of small stores around Osceola. There were a couple that would be pretty much like convenience stores now, but there was a lot of them that were just people who operated them out of their houses. They'd maybe just convert a closed-in front porch, and they'd have, the basics, bread and milk, and probably some canned goods, and always a candy counter for the kids. And basically, it's because, and I'm sure towns all over America were like this. You figure if you go back far enough, before there were cars, people, it was a long trip just to go to the next town. And then even after cars, you figure in the 20s and 30s, there weren't a lot of cars. More cars started coming along in the 40s, and I think the 50s would have been a big boom time, that post-war economy. But then over time, they kind of drifted away because people were able to get around more. Families started having second cars. For a long time, everybody was just a one-car family. And even if the wife drove, she, the husband took the car to work, and so she couldn't go anywhere anyhow. So she had these small stores around where they could get the necessities. And like I say, when I was a kid, there were still quite a few around. And there was one, I don't want to mention the name because of this story, but people from here will probably guess what I'm talking about. They were famous for their candy counter, and there was a family that ran it for a number of years, and it was basically, it would be like a convenience store. It was a small store with gas pumps out front. And as the people that ran it got older, they had no one to take over it, and they sold it to this couple. And we're just going to call them the husband and wife. And the husband had a full-time job, so it was basically the wife's project. And she hired my brother Rick. Oh, by the way, I think I forgot to mention at the beginning, just so everybody knows, I did not ask anybody's permission ahead of time to tell this story. So I don't know. I may hear about it or not. But that's one reason why I'm not going to say the names, because I don't want Rick to feel like I was talking out of turn, even though this happened quite a while ago. But anyway, Rick was working down there, and I'll tell you, this was like a perfect job for him, except I imagine he didn't make a whole lot of money, but otherwise, he's always been, real sociable and likes talking to people, and he's a good worker. So this just suited him. He would do things too. It got to be where, at least he thought, he and the wife were pretty good friends, because she could trust him to work on his own. Sometimes he'd even go on supply runs over to Clearfield for them, and that's like a 30-mile trip. Not outrageous, but still, it's not the kind of thing that you necessarily was part of the job duties. But yeah, so sort of had, it's kind of a good thing going. There was only one problem with the place. The husband enjoyed his alcoholic libations a bit. He was one of those guys that never drove straight home. He had to stop at the watering hole. And he would come into the store and get cash out of the cash register to go off and enjoy his libations. And of course, he never told the wife because I think she must have been happy pretending she didn't know that her husband was a useless drunk. Anyway, after a bit, the wife realized they weren't taking in as much money as they should. And of course, the husband denied taking any money, even after she fired Rick over it. He didn't come forward and say, "Oh no, don't fire him. It was me. It was me." No, what can I say? He was a useless drunk. You know how they are. Anyway, that's one story. And I have a related story about a friend who, he was a guy whenever I used to be active at the fire hall. He was there too. And he worked, we'll call him Tracy. He worked at one of the local, we used to be a few of these sewing factories around town that hired mostly women. And I don't think they paid a whole lot. I think a lot of them were piecework or maybe minimum wage. But anyway, Tracy worked at this one, and he drove like the delivery van for them. And he and the boss were good friends, or so Tracy always believed. And he worked there for quite a while. And then the women who worked in the actual sewing factory, they wanted better conditions, more money, I imagine. And they ended up joining the union. They went on strike. Well, Tracy, because him and the boss were good friends, he decided to work through the strike to help the boss out, And so the women were out for a couple weeks or whatever it was. And they got concessions. And when they came back to work, the company was paying them more money. So to save money, Tracy's good friend, the boss, laid him off. And, well, first of all, for both these stories, for Rick and Tracy, they had happy endings because they both ended up getting better jobs because both of them were good workers. They had no trouble moving on to other places. But the point of me telling these two stories is basically the idea that you kids out there, here's some advice for you. Never trust a boss. No matter what you think, you are a valued employee, you're good friends. When it comes down to a choice between their money and you, they're going with the money every time. Now, I will say there may be a few out there that are decent people. You'll hear those stories sometimes. Remember, there was that guy a few years back. He ran some kind of, was it a software company or something out in California, and he decided to set a minimum wage for everybody in the company. It was like even the janitors were being paid like $50,000 or something. I forget exactly, but he seemed like a good guy. Once in a while you hear that where they decide to share the wealth with the people that are actually doing the work to make the wealth. But it's few and far between. So that's basically it. Just wanted to say 9 times out of 10, when it comes down to it, the boss is going to screw you. And that's today's lesson, kiddies. We'll see ya.